During his regular morning patrol through the icy northern wilderness, Arctic Ranger Logan Turner heard an unsettling cry echo through the cold air. It was a particularly brutal morning. The air was sharp, and biting winds whipped up the snow, making it hard to see. Guided by the sound, Logan arrived at an icy bridge across a half-frozen river. To his shock, he found a deep trap filled with snow at the center, holding a young polar bear cub, trembling and visibly weakened. As Logan took in the scene, he noticed the pit's slick, unnaturally steep sides. Probably poachers had set up this trap, intentionally freezing the edges to make it impossible for the cub to escape. It was obvious from the clues scattered everywhere that the poachers had been there. Tool marks and smoothed-down surfaces where they had worked to secure the pit. The cub's futile attempts to climb had left claw marks and drops of blood on the icy walls. Logan's gaze shifted, and he saw the mother bear caught in a steel net nearby, her paw badly cut from struggling against the metal. She could only look helplessly in her cub's direction, unable to help. The mother bear's net was expertly anchored to a large ice block, its cables designed to tighten whenever she tried to move. Logan's watch showed a further drop in temperature, and he knew time was short. Snow began to cover the cub's fur, forming a crust of ice. The little bear's movements slowed and its cries weakened, making it clear that Logan needed to act quickly. He pulled out his climbing gear, a strong rope, carabiners and pulleys, from his backpack, and even with heated gloves, the cold bit into his fingers as he assembled the hoisting system. Securing one end of the rope to a sturdy ice outcrop, Logan tried to loop it around the cub, but his first attempt failed as his hands stiffened in the cold. The cub gave a feeble startle when the loop brushed against it. The second attempt slipped off the cub's fur, which was slick with ice. Just then, Logan heard the faint rumble of snowmobiles. The poachers were coming back. He quickened his efforts, aware of the ticking clock. Finally, on the third attempt, the rope loop held, and Logan carefully pulled the cub up, making sure to keep it away from the sharp edges of the pit. The snowmobile sounds grew closer. With one last effort, Logan got the cub onto solid ground. He checked it over. Besides a few scrapes, it wasn't badly hurt, but hypothermia was a real concern. Wrapping the cub in a special thermal blanket, he carefully hid it behind a snowbank, hoping it would stay out of sight. With the cub safe, Logan turned his focus to freeing the mother bear. The net had a complex lock, clearly tamper-resistant. Logan took out his multi-tool, his hands shaking from the cold, and began working on the mechanism. Amazingly, the bear seemed to understand his intention and calmed down, breathing steadily, her dark eyes watching him closely. Blood had started to freeze around her paw, increasing the urgency. The sound of snowmobiles was louder now, and Logan could hear voices, excited chatter from the poachers, who were obviously thrilled with their catch. He redoubled his efforts, carefully working through each level of security in the lock. His numb fingers moved quickly, and he heard the satisfying click of the first level disengaging. 2 more to go, and time was running short. The poachers appeared through the snow, 3 of them, led by a tall, gray-bearded man who immediately spotted the empty trap. Anger flashed on his face as he saw Logan's footprints. One poacher moved toward the mother bear, while Logan kept working on the lock, trying to stay out of sight behind the bear's bulk. Finding the second level of the lock, he deactivated it. Only the final and most complex mechanism remained. "Someone's here!" one of the poachers shouted, raising his gun as he spotted Logan. At that moment, a gust of wind kicked up a screen of snow, blinding the poachers for a second. That was all Logan needed. His fingers found the final mechanism, and with a click, the lock released. The chain fell away with a loud clink, and the mother bear stood up, massive and fierce, her eyes blazing as she towered over the men. In shock, the poachers hesitated, long enough for Logan to slip away into the snowstorm. Logan watched from a safe distance as the mother bear, freed and furious, sent the poachers fleeing. After chasing them off, she immediately found her cub, carefully lifting it and carrying it deeper into the reserve, toward a safer area. The weeks that followed kept Logan on edge. He knew the poachers wouldn't forget the encounter, and he began noticing unusual tracks in remote areas of the reserve. One bitterly cold day, as Logan photographed evidence of fresh poaching activity, cigarette butts, snowmobile tracks, and trampled snow, he didn't realize he was already being watched. A sudden pop shattered the silence. The poachers were firing blanks, trying to herd him into a trap. Logan dodged, but he was surrounded before he could react. Recognizing the gray-bearded leader, he tried reaching for his radio, but a hard blow knocked him down. The poachers acted with practiced skill, binding his wrists tightly with ropes and stripping him of his gear. They tossed his radio and phone into the snow, and the leader pointed to a spot on a map, barking orders as they pushed Logan forward. They marched him through the blizzard for an hour, heading toward a desolate area where help was unlikely. With each step, Logan felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The reserve was rarely patrolled here, and the worsening weather cut off any chance of rescue. Then something unexpected happened. One of the poachers suddenly froze, his face going pale. A low, guttural growl drifted through the blizzard. Emerging from the snowstorm, a huge white shape appeared, a polar bear. Logan immediately recognized her by the scar on her paw. It was the very bear he had saved. The leader signaled his men to raise their guns, but the bear placed herself protectively between them and Logan. The poachers tried to back away, unnerved by the massive predator's steady, watchful stance. She growled again, low and threatening. Her presence was imposing enough that the poachers felt the gravity of the situation. One poacher, panicked, raised his rifle. The bear responded instantly, her stance becoming even more menacing. Her sheer size and power sent the poachers over the edge, and they fled, abandoning their gear in the snow. Their footsteps and heavy breathing faded as they disappeared into the storm. The bear remained near Logan, her muscles tense, watching for any sign of the poachers' return. Only when their sounds had completely faded did she approach Logan, sniffing the ropes that bound his wrists. Though his heart raced, Logan sensed a strange calm in the animal's eyes. The bear began gently gnawing through the ropes. Her powerful jaws, capable of crushing bones, worked with surprising precision, loosening the knots one by one until Logan was free. Once he stood up, rubbing his sore wrists, he whispered, "Thank you," meeting her steady gaze. She seemed to understand, tilting her head as if acknowledging his words. They stood there in silent understanding, two beings who had saved each other in the unforgiving wilderness. With a final look, the bear turned and walked back into the blizzard, leaving only her tracks behind. Logan knew he had witnessed something extraordinary. In that frozen landscape, he had discovered an unspoken bond with a wild creature, learning that even the fiercest animals were capable of loyalty and trust. From that day on, Logan saw the Arctic in a new light. The experience left him with a lasting respect for the animals he protected and a deep belief in the bonds that can form between humans and the wild. Now, what to think about this heartwarming story? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories. See you in the next video.